Assalamu alaikum. Today we'll talk about public relations. Right, the key objectives are explain what public relations is, describe how public relations works, list common public relations tools and their functions, name and discuss what is trending in public relations. Right, so here we see a case study that used public relations, right? So Procter & Gamble faced a formidable challenge in its competition to reach a new generation of girls with its feminine care product Always. And the company recognized that one of the strengths of the Always brand was its decades-long commitment to empowering girls through puberty education. Okay, so whenever we think about activities that girls do, there is this negative scenario that is associated with it, with them. So when we say that person runs like a girl, it's something negative. Walks like a girl, talks like a girl, it's always a negative connotation that comes about. Now, what Always did was try to turn it around and change the meaning of it to make it more positive, right? So the use of the phrase like a girl was seen as an insult, implying that simply being female means whatever a young woman does is not good enough. So Procter & Gamble created a campaign that challenged the use of this expression, redefined it, and inspired others, and used social media and PR to spread the message, right? So this positive sentiment was developed and it was very successful. Okay, so doing things like a girl is not an insult. Okay, and you want to equate doing things like a girl to mean downright amazing. So what is public relations? Public relations is a communication discipline that covers a wide range of functions that help an organization connect with the people it touches. Now, public relations is a lot about building good relationships between organizations and publics, isn't it? Yeah. And these relationships are mutually beneficial relationships. So public relations focuses on all relationships an organization has with various publics. And publics are all groups with which an organization interacts: employees, members, local communities, shareholders, customers, other institutions. And sometimes these people are known as stakeholders. So stakeholders have people or are people who have a stake in a company or organization. And these are people who can hurt or be hurt by organizations, right? Now, public relations is practiced by several organizations, right? So it could be universities, it could be museums, it could be travel and tourism industry, it could be professional associations, it could be governments, it could be labor unions, it could be politicians, it could be the media, and so forth. The list is endless. So public relations is a dynamic global profession and is found all over the world. And there is the Public Relations Society of America and the Institute of Public Relations Malaysia, which you can explore. Now, public opinion is very important to public relations practitioners. They really go out to evaluate, to examine what people think about your organization, about your brand, and their beliefs are based on perceptions or evaluations of events, people, institutions, products, and what happens is, if the public opinion were to be negative, then the public relations strategy would be, let's try and make that positive, like the Always brand and what it did, in terms of walking like a girl, talking like a girl, and doing things like a girl, and how negative that message was. And it tried to turn that around into something which is more amazing associated with girls. Yeah, so public relations strategists want to know what publics are important to us now and in the future. What do these publics think? Okay, so this is something which they have to determine, and they have to come up with campaigns so that they turn around the opinions, the public opinions of their brands, of their institutions, if they were negative. So you have opinion leaders who are people who are important, and they influence the opinions of others, and they include prime ministers, presidents, right? Writers that are famous, okay? And these people can influence other people, and hence they play a huge role in terms of changing opinions, public opinions. Okay, so Home Depot employees build goodwill in their community. What did they do? They had volunteers that built picnic tables for a park in Detroit and helped build goodwill for their company, Home Depot. So in order to get the public to like Home Depot, it had to do something that was positive, that was caring, and one thing that it did was to build picnic tables for a park. Yeah, it's something which everybody can use, and it would serve the community well. So this is something which is important. So public goodwill is a company's greatest asset, and integrity involves more than just image. It's a result of a company's actual behavior, and public relations is the conscience of the company. It's the moral dimension of the company that creates trust and maintains its honesty or integrity. So what happens is, if something goes wrong, the company is with the obligation to set it right. So it must identify in an honest manner, that's where integrity comes in, that there's something wrong, and hence the company has to set it right. How public relations contributes to brand perception. So public relations contributes significantly to brand perceptions. In integrated programs, advertising and PR aim at selected targets with different but complementary messages. So advertising is more into sales, and public relations is more into building good relationships with stakeholders. Advertising and PR specialists share a joint responsibility to promote a brand, and at times their efforts come together. Social responsibility is good public relations. And Haagen-Dazs, which is an ice cream brand, joined researchers to help determine why US honeybee colonies are disappearing. And PR integrated with advertising helped solve a serious problem and build brand image for the client. Yeah, so this was something that was really important. Now, comparing PR and advertising, yeah, PR strategists have to earn, the media gatekeepers coverage of stories in relation to their brands, in relation to their organizations. Okay, and there's no guarantee that your story will cover. Okay, so you've got to do an event, okay, that is newsworthy, so that the media gatekeepers are willing to cover your story, your event. So the story may be rewritten or reorganized. It may be taken from your press releases, okay, 100%, or it may be rewritten, reorganized from their perspective. So that is where the danger lies. There's that lack of control. In contrast, advertising runs exactly as the client who paid for it has approved and as scheduled, because advertising is paid. So if you were to pay advertising, what happens is you would want to check whether the advertising has come out during that time, during that in that space that you have purchased. Okay, as opposed to advertising, PR takes a longer, broader view of the importance of image and reputation as a corporate competitive asset. Okay, so this is another difference with regards to PR and advertising, right? So public relations seeks to persuade media gatekeepers okay, to cover their companies. And gatekeepers are writers, editors, producers, talk show coordinators, and newscasters. And this aspect of PR is called publicity. So you want to earn the gatekeepers' respect to get them to cover your story. Credibility. Public trusts media more than advertisers, yeah, because media content is like news and is more trustworthy, and PR provides information through news stories and ads focus on salesmanship. So PR has that credibility compared to advertising. How does PR work? So there are 20 key publics. Of the 20 key publics of a typical multinational corporation, relationship management programs focus on the media, employees, financial community, government, and the general public. Okay, so you want to build good relationships with these stakeholders because you are focused on getting outcomes that would be of benefit to your organization. So when you talk about media relations, organizations must develop good media contacts. And they, as you realize, when you go to events, there are tables meant for media, the media reps, isn't it, right? And then you will have an officer usually from your corporate comm office, that will attend to the needs of the media. If the media people wanted, information, then you would be having somebody who could provide that information. So that is really important to know and understand and do. And one must know who in the media might be interested in the organization's story. That's also one thing. And relationships must be built on honesty, accuracy, and professionalism. Yeah, there shouldn't be any deception, right? And the relationship should never be compromised. Employee relations. Now, employees comprise another form of stakeholder or another type of public, yeah, one of the publics, right? So programs that communicate information to employees is very important, because without employees, how could the organization function, isn't it? Yeah. And you could also get them to support your marketing programs and communicate to them about this. And this is called internal marketing, so that they could spread word of mouth on the different products that you want to market. Another stakeholder is financial relations or the financial community, right? So financial relations with the financial community is very important. Communications aimed at the financial community, and these could include sending press releases to business publications, meetings with investors, annual reports. Public affairs is a function of public relations, which deals with communication with government and the public on issues related to government and regulation. And you could have PR people who lobby, yeah, they encourage legislators to support a bill, to support a policy, and get that policy to be passed in Parliament, right? So legislators, those who write laws, isn't it? Yeah. And this is what you want to get. You want them to support a particular bill so that it is passed in Parliament and becomes law. So issue management is more proactive. You monitor, communicate to and with the public. So you identify beforehand what the issues would be and you proactively solve them. So MACD, that moved from plastic to paper in the 1990s, is an issue management case. Community relations is also very important to get right when you talk about PR. And when you talk about community relations, it encompasses communities in broader society, both geographic and ethnic. It includes consideration of diverse communities, the underrepresented and underserved, yeah. And companies can build community relations through cause marketing, which means that the companies associate themselves with good causes, like the Haagen-Dazs case, and doing research. Haagen-Dazs did research, isn't it? Yeah. or funded research on the missing honeybee population in the US, came up with the flavors in it, right? And used the profits to fund research. So that is Haagen-Dazs being concerned about what happens around it, right? What happens around the brand, okay, in the world. So that is cause marketing. Now, consumer relations, building relationships with people who buy things in the US and elsewhere around the globe, is another aspect of PR that focuses on relationships. So the core objectives are building sales and building the brand. You want to create a brand image, you want to communicate that, you want to create sales, right? So the key activities would be attracting and keeping customers, marketing new products or services, handling customer communication, and educating customers. So that's really important. So what Haagen-Dazs did as well was to educate consumers about the honeybee problem. Okay, corporate reputation management. When you talk about reputation, it is what people think about your organization or your brand, right? So corporate relations focuses on an organization's image and reputation. So in terms of PR, it's more into the corporate organization's reputation, what people think about the corporate organization. So the overriding goal of reputation management is to strengthen stakeholder trust. You want to build trust between yourselves and the stakeholders that are important to you, right? So CSR describes good works done in the community and environment, and it would strengthen stakeholder trust if done well. So GE demonstrates its commitment to meet environmental challenges using green technology while spurring economic growth. GE wants to associate itself with saving the environment, saving, the environment in terms of promoting green technology, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Aspects of PR that focus on particular functions. You have crisis management, yeah, anticipating and planning for disasters from a media perspective, and with stakeholders. So we talk about airlines. Of course, it has to plan, anticipate disappearances with regards to airplanes, isn't it? It's something that could happen. It doesn't happen as much as accidents on roads, but it does happen, and that has to be anticipated, and there must be a plan in place in case that happens. So consider these now famous public relations crises, the Tylenol poisonings, isn't it, right? So Tylenol poisonings basically talk about on September 29, 1982, 3 people died in the Chicago area after taking cyanide-laced Tylenol at the outset of a poisoning spree that would claim 7 lives by October the 1st. The case has never been solved, and the question was, why did these people die? Because of this poisoning. Why was this poisoning happening? Was something that is still being asked, right? So the disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 in 2014 is another crisis that had a crisis management plan in place, right, by Malaysia Airlines in communicating accurately to stakeholders concerned. Okay, so effective crisis plans can help both avoid crisis and ease the damage if one happens. Public communication campaigns intended to change public opinion and discourage harmful behaviors like smoking. So you have the Truth campaign that discourages smoking, and the Truth campaign was or is a national campaign by the Florida Tobacco Program, a brand by the Florida's Department of Health and Rehabilitative Services, and is aimed at eliminating teen smoking in the US and has been going on since 1989. Right? So the Truth campaign produces television and digital content to encourage teens to reject tobacco and to unite against the tobacco industry. So that is an example of a public communication campaign. Another aspect of PR that focuses on particular functions is fundraising, and the practice of raising money by collecting donations is something which PR practitioners do, and it's used by nonprofits, museums, hospitals, Red Cross, and others directed at potential donors, and sometimes it's called as strategic philanthropy. What are common PR tools? So some of the common PR tools are, websites, blogs, and so forth, but they can be categorized as paid media, where the sponsoring organization pays for media and controls how and when the message is delivered. Owned media, where the channels owned and controlled by the sponsoring organization, have their own websites, blogs, or sponsored events. You have earned media, where you need to earn, isn't it, consumers and mass media coverage of your brand. And this is the most credible media option, and you want people to spread positive word of mouth. What are common PR tools? Advertising is a common PR tool. It creates corporate visibility or strengthens relationships with various stakeholder audiences. House ads are used. You have television stations that advertise upcoming programs in a particular season, or particular celebration. Used in a company's own publication, you have house ads that are used in a company's own publication or programs for self-promotion, and you have PSAs or public service announcements that run free on TV, radio, or print for charities or civic organizations, for example, the American Heart Foundation. And this is, since 1972, PSAs for the United Negro College Fund have helped raise more than $2.2 billion to fund college educations for more than 350,000 minority students. Okay, so what are common PR tools? Advertising is one. So corporate advertising focuses on the corporate image or viewpoint, and this is something which organizations use. So you often hear of corporate ads. For example, Petronas festive advertisements are sometimes known as corporate ads, and they focus on the corporate image or viewpoint. And Petronas associates itself with, unity within diversity, respecting the elders, and other human value laden messages, right? So corporate identity advertising is used to communicate to build awareness on the brand's identity, and it's used to enhance or maintain reputation among specific audiences. Advocacy advertising, you intend to deliver various point of view messages. For example, GE wants to associate itself with environmentally conscious messages, so it focuses on these kind of messages through advocacy advertising. Right, so there is the use of news releases, by PR people. PR practitioners, they deliver PR messages to external media. They should answer the 5 W's and 1 H, which makes the news release journalistic. And when it is journalistic and it covers on newsworthiness, on something which is newsworthy, it is attractive to the media, and they should be using your news release 100% as it is. Okay, video news releases. Sometimes we have video footages for television newscasts, and this would provide them or encourage the media to use your footage, because it's easier, isn't it, right? You've provided it from your perspective, it's positive, it promotes your organization well, and they can easily use it. The media can easily use something like this. News releases, the media can easily use your news stories if you've written them well. That's why you've got to focus on making them journalistic. Right, pitch letter, an engaging letter about a feature story idea sent to editors who have to be sold on the idea. So you're selling them a feature story idea, and if editors say, wow, okay, that's a good idea, then you can write a whole feature story which focuses on human interests. Yeah. And what happens is your organization could promote itself through a human interest story. So that's the whole idea of using pitch letters. Yeah? News releases, a key PR tool. Notice the tight and simple writing style in the news release from the University of Nebraska, Lincoln. News releases can be accompanied in the digital age with associated media files, such as short videos to help communicate the news. Right, now as part of publicity, we have press conferences. Here, a spokesperson makes a media statement. A media kit may be sent ahead of time so that the media would have information about the event. And it could also be given on the day, right, as the press conference is happening. And usually you have a person, PR person who also controls, right, manages the press conferences where you have spokespersons representing different companies speaking on something. Yeah, media tours, a press conference on wheels, so you can have a spokesperson making speeches and announcements and holding press conferences and offering interviews and going from one place to the other, right? Okay, we also have publications where we have pamphlets, booklets, annual reports, collateral material, print or online materials to support marketing effort of organizations, books, news bulletins, newsletters, inserts, position papers, right? Position papers is sometimes position piece is an essay that presents an arguable opinion about an issue, typically that of the author or some specified entity. Position papers are published in academia, in politics, in law, and other domains, and the goal of a position paper is to convince the audience that the opinion presented is valid and worth listening to. Ideas for position papers that one is considering need to be carefully examined when choosing a topic, developing an argument, and organizing the paper. So these are position papers where if you talk about from the academic perspective, it could be an organization that would have a stance on something, it's advocating something, and it communicates this academically, right, in the academic circles. Okay. The impact of banks. Regulations have become the standard for the banking industry. It is important for bankers to visit their state and national reps to leverage the impact community banks have as legislation is written and voted upon. Finding a way to communicate the importance of community banks was critical. The solution was to create an infographic to reach the target audience of busy elected officials and communicate quickly and powerfully. Videos, CDs, podcasts, and books. These are now major public relations tools, and books can be published simply with electronic publishing. And videos are expensive but are ideal for distributing in-depth information. You have speakers and photos where you have a speakers bureau, which is a group of articulate people who will talk about topics at the public's request. So an organization would have a bunch of people, a group of articulate people who can talk about different topics depending on what the public wants. Right, so they can go off to speak on topics to the public. Displays and exhibits. You have displays which include booths, racks, and holders for promotional literature and signage. And exhibits are bigger and may have moving parts, sound, or video. You have special events and tours. Special events celebrate company milestones, open houses, birthday celebrations, corporate sponsorship of events, right? And tours and trips by delegates and reps. The Truth Youth Smoking Prevention Campaign tour reaches 500,000 teens annually with information about the harmful effects of smoking. So these are examples of special events and tours, and of course they present a way to establish a good relationship or communicate, you know, on an issue which is of importance, right? Right. So special events can promote products. So in one of his classic performances, the late Steve Jobs unveils the iPad, generating lots of buzz, okay, word of mouth for the new Apple iPad. Ginormous vision, yeah, visual of the iPad there. Online communication, you have intranets that connect people within an organization. You have extranets that connect people in one business with its business partners. And what happens is extranets are used, for instance, SharePoint, where organizations want to collaborate with external stakeholders and they want external stakeholders to contribute work and so forth online. So what happens is the organization would allow some external parties to get onto the system, the internal system, so that the sharing could happen. Okay, so external communication includes websites, email, contact with reports, press releases distributed by email, or PR newswire. What's trending in PR? We have, firstly, mobile communication will continue to grow as audiences increasingly use smartphones, right? So information ought to be sent out to audiences in a way where it can be seen easily through mobile phones, because audiences are always on their mobile phones and wherever they go. And the thing is, that's where you catch them with PR information. Yeah, visual storytelling. Audiences are more into visual content, so this is something which is an area people should consider. Real-time marketing, messages based on current events will present opportunities to define brand personality, especially with the adoption of social media, right? So current events, something which is current, up to date, yeah, that connects with trending events, isn't it? Yeah, trending information, trending topics. So this is what public relations should really look at, so that you're more up to date. Educational video content will become more important, and people are looking for something which is educational as opposed to something which is you know, sensational and so forth. Attempts to go viral will continue to try to get a crowd involved to replicate the success of other efforts. So the whole idea of, you know, spreading word of mouth online, yeah. Example, ASL bucket challenge is something, the ice bucket challenge, isn't it? Is something which should, which is an example which should be replicated, that went viral. Yeah, digital security will be a continuing concern as hacking endangers information collected through digital channels. We've seen you know, a lot of digital security issues happening of late, and people are concerned about this. So if, in order to create credibility and trustworthiness, and we've got to communicate about the digital security features that you have, yeah, with regards to data collected, or, you know, so that's very of great concern to people. Twitter users need to become more sophisticated to avoid creating blunders that require PR fixes. Yeah, so Twitter users shouldn't really create mistakes that require PR fixes. And of course, this is in relation to PR practitioners and organizations, so that we don't have to fix the problems later. Brand owners will continue to integrate PR, advertising, and marketing, and use one voice. And social responsibility is important and will result in the increased use of cause marketing, as you can see, Haagen-Dazs, and we have public relations there as well, which looks into the association of an organization with something which is of importance to the public. measuring the effectiveness of PR efforts continues to evolve, and this is something which, you know, should always happen because we're concerned about effectiveness, and we should be concerned not only for PR, for all the other marketing communication tools, and we need to find better ways to continue measuring effectiveness. Okay, that's it.